Only reason I'm here is so that you guys get your daily dose of the Bible. And as somebody who's learning, I'm asking questions to you guys because maybe you have answers, but also I'm sharing how I'm going to research these topics and what topics that I need to research to further my goal in being better versed in the Bible. All right, how you guys doing today? We about to get into John chapter 11. First things first, make sure you like that video, hit a little exit full screen, scroll a little bit, like it, full screen it back up. You dig? So I looked up what I was looking for in John chapter 9 because I neglected to look it up before. Not neglected, I just forgot. Or was it John chapter 10? No, because John chapter 10 I looked up like I and the Father are one. I took it way too serious. It wasn't unserious for real. It was just like me and the Father were connected. That's all it was. It wasn't nothing like we are one being. Nah, it was just like we're connected, right? So then I went back to John chapter 9 with the story of the blind man and how it said, has his parents sinned or has he sinned because he's blind all his life? Jesus said he's blind because God will show the glory of his works. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't really adding up to me, so I gotta re-look at it again, but that's fine. But I also wanted to look at like the last verse about like you guys are blind because you think you haven't sinned, but if you know you've sinned, then you're not blind. I wanted to look at that verse as well, so I'll come back to you. Just not giving up on it. The one commentary didn't really touch on it too much, so I want to give you guys whatever I research. And if you notice this little shadow, it's just I hung my jacket up on the little thingy. Tough noogies. If you don't like it, it's about to go away right now. And that's what my mom says. My mom be saying like tough noogies. I say like, you know, big whoop, or that's tough, you know. She be saying tough noogies. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sister sent to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." When he heard this, Jesus said, "The sickness will not end in death. No, it is God's glory so that God's Son may be glorified through it." Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." "But Rabbi," they said, "a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you are going back?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light." After he said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up." His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get better." Jesus had been speaking of his death, but the disciples thought that he meant natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead, and for your sake, I'm glad I was not there so that you may believe, but let us go to him." Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, said to the rest of the disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. "Lord," Martha said to Jesus, "if you had been there, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha answered, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she replied. "I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who has come into the world." After she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. "The teacher is here," she said, "and is asking for you." When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come also saw her weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him?" What some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, "the sister of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor, for he's been in there 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you will always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Therefore, many of the Jews who came to visit Mary and seen what Jesus did believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees called a meeting of the Sanhedrin. "What are we accomplishing?" they asked. "Here is this man performing many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take him away, both our temple and our nation." Then one of them, named Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, spoke up. "You do not realize that it is better for you that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish." He did not say this on his own, but as high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the Jewish nation, and not only for that nation, but also for the scattered children of God, to bring them together and make them one. So far, that day on, they plotted to take his life. Therefore, Jesus no longer moved about publicly among the people of Judea. Instead, he withdrew to a region near the wilderness, to a village called Ephraim, where he stayed with his disciples. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, many went up from the country to Jerusalem for their ceremonial cleansing before the Passover. They kept looking for Jesus. As they stood in the temple courts, they asked one another, "What do you think? Isn't he coming to the festival at all?" But the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that anyone who found out where Jesus was should report it so that they might arrest him. So back when I was looking at the video for chapter 9 with the blind man, and Jesus was talking about doing things in the light versus in death, or in daytime, my bad, doing things in the light versus at night where nobody can work. It was John MacArthur. He was kind of saying how, and I don't want you guys to think that I only look for his videos. It's just like, I mean, the most searched ones. He'd just be up there at the top of the search list, and I'm just like, all right. I know the people in my Bible study really like him, and they're non-denominational. They kind of just go off the book, and they're pretty good about it. And, you know, I hear good things about him, so I'm like, all right. Now, obviously, if I don't agree with one of his takes, I'm not going to talk to you guys about it. But also, that's coming from me, not from anybody who actually knows this stuff like fairly well. I'm just here. Only reason I'm here is so that you guys get your daily dose of the Bible. And as somebody who's learning, I'm asking questions to you guys because maybe you have answers, but also I'm sharing how I'm going to research these topics and what topics that I need to research to further my goal in being better versed in the Bible. But basically, what he was talking about was how people need to work in the light, aka the daytime, and not at night. Because at night, they can't work, aka they can't see, maybe. But John MacArthur was like, what he was saying is the light is life, and death is the darkness. You can't work in death, so you have to work while you're in light and make your wages now so that you're allowed to sleep when it's nighttime. He didn't say the sleep part, but I kind of feel like it fits the analogy. Like, you go to work all day, you go home, you go to sleep, you rest, you relax, you're happy. So it's like while you're alive, you have to do work so that when you're dead, you can rest in eternal happiness with God. And so Jesus is saying here, what I believe are not there 12 hours of daylight. Now he's just here. I think he's just talking about literally the fact that there's 12 hours of daylight. Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by the world's light. He before has called himself the light of the world. As you guys know, I looked it up. John 8:12, Jesus spoke, said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Zoe. So what he's saying here is if you walk in the light as I walked in the light, you know, you won't stumble in sin you see by the world's light. When a person walks at night, that they stumble, for they have no light. And if we go to John MacArthur's analogy, the reason I brought it up, if you walk at night, which he calls death, you stumble, for they have no light. Obviously, with Jesus's example, if you're walking at night, you don't have the light, so you don't have him, which means you're going to stumble with sin because you have no light. You don't have Jesus. But I think this even works with John MacArthur's example, this line specifically. When a person walks at night, aka in darkness, aka death, they stumble, because we know the wages of sin are death. So when you walk with death, that's when you're stumbling in sin, because you have no light. You need the light. Just saying. I'm going to look this up because I don't really know what Mr. Didymus Thomas was saying when he says, "Let us also go that we may die with him." At first I thought he meant Jesus, but Jesus told them that Lazarus is dead. So they want to go die with Lazarus? What are you talking about, Thomas? What are you talking about? And my boy, Caiaphas? I think I called him Caiaphas. I like Caiaphas. It's like Isaiah Caiaphas. Isaiah has the AIA. But basically, he was saying, like, you realize that it's better for one man to die than the whole nation. And then he started sending people out that they were going to kill him. Like, yeah. Like, he got the vision that Jesus would die for the nation. And so basically, They're gonna speed that John up. They plotted on take his life. Like, what?
What are you talking about, man?
That boy was stanky. And here it gets even plainer. He doesn't say whoever believes in me will never die. Whoever lives by believing in me will never die. How do you live? By believing in him. He doesn't say whoever lives believing in me lives by believing in me, because it's an action. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. You can't sin. Can't go back. You gotta do that junk. You gotta man up. Get through it. Don't sin. Facts. Ask God. He gonna give it. Amen. I can't find a line that I really wanted to say something on, but like, did I not tell you, if you believe, you're gonna see the glory of God? Even now. You pray, you ask, you shall receive. I tell you, if you believe, you'll see the glory of God. Once you believe in God and like act like you do, your life just gets so much better. Everything just gets like 10 times better, let me tell you. And look at this. Look at the confidence with which Jesus spoke. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. He knew before he even told bro to come out that bro was getting up. Like I said, I'm not that well versed yet, God willing. Truly, I tell you, if you have faith as small of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. Bro said, God, I appreciate you hearing me, bro. Hey, El Lazzy, come out. Like, once you got faith and you ask, you're going to receive. And even in this case, Jesus didn't even ask. My pants. Oh, well. In Matthew 6:8, once again, I had to look it up. Your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Clearly, he knew. I thank you that you heard me. I mean, maybe he didn't say it out loud, but regardless, he knows what you need before you even ask. Even if you ask in your head and you don't say it out loud and it happens, he still knows what you need regardless. So before you even say it in your head, Jesus could have been like, man, what do I need? Lazarus? You're awake? He literally could have not even thought about the fact he was going to raise Lazarus, but Lazarus woke up. Lazarus. I keep saying Lazarus. I swear I'm like developing a lisp, low key. I can't find the verse that I want to speak on. If I see it in editing, then you're going to see what I wanted to say right now. All right, that's going to be the end of the chapter. Hope you guys have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.